Today, I tried to convince him to meet Ted or George, but he refused flatly. He doesn't want to speak or to see anybody. I didn't press the matter, leaving him some more time. However, I succeeded in persuading him to write a letter to Albus and James. I helped him out. It has been excruciatingly painful. I could sense it, but I'm very proud of him. He persevered and wrote 2 good letters. Not long, not sentimental, but in his style, and I think he can be valued even more for that. They'll be happy. Or at least Albus will be surely. I don't know about James. I know he's deeply fond of him. But they are so similar, it's difficult for them to get along, especially now. I tried as well to persuade him to go to visit Sunrise. She's at the borough since obviously Harry wasn't in any condition to perform the role of a father. Soon after the debacle with Ron, James stated his intention to drop school to take care of her. Molly didn't want to hear of it, and being him still not of age, he had no choice but to go back to Hogwarts. Technically, it was Ted, the one who had been chosen by Harry and Ginny to be the guardian in case of need. But at the end, it was to Molly and Arthur that she had been entrusted. Ted asked them to perform that role. He justified saying that working at the hospital mostly in shifts, it's not easy for him to take care of her. It doesn't wash with me. I know Andromeda would have been only too happy to do it when he is at work, and he goes to the barrow every leisure moment he gets to spend some time with her. My suspicion is that it has been done with the sole goal to keep them busy, especially Arthur, so they wouldn't brood too much over Ginny's death. That child is so chattering, overactive, and challenging that doesn't leave space for grief. I never stopped to be surprised by Ted's wisdom. Harry didn't even allow me to carry my suggestion to the end. She is happier farther away from me, he muttered, leaving the room, surely not to be pestered, and didn't open his mouth up to dinner. When in bed, it is not different from the other nights before this one. As usual, he asked me to read something to him. I think it has got the power to divert his thoughts and soothe him. Therefore, I always do it with pleasure. He nodded off with easiness, nestled close to me while I was performing my task, and his sleep seemed deep and serene. I fear I'm getting used a bit too easily in sharing bed with him, and, I must say, I enjoy the cuddling a bit too much. But he is so gentle. I feel so good in his arms. I'm experiencing what I almost never did with Ron, and that, I know, should be wrong. And it's also wrong of me to lie awake some hours every night, very well aware of his body close to mine and incapable to get a wink of sleep. But I hope I'll get over it eventually. I'm sure I can learn to enjoy his closeness under the name of friendship. But that happy moment is not arrived quite yet. I'm having a flash of awareness just tonight. I'm awake as if daytime. I'm on one side and he's pulling with me in a torturing, much suffered way. All his marvelous body is pressed against my back, his firm arms are on me, and I'm as tense as a violin string. When is the last time I had some satisfactory sex? Actually, now that I think of it, when is the last time I had sex at all? My God, I cannot even remember. It must have been ages ago. He moves, sending electric bolts everywhere, awaking part of my body I didn't even realize to have. And in some other cases, alas, I almost forgot to have. I can feel his breathing on my neck. Elim's hands rest so close to my body, lightly brushing it. I just need to heave slightly deeper to reach the craved contact, and this consciousness cutting entirely away with fear of what that touch could provoke in me. And all these sensations are so agonizing and strong, my eyes tear up out of frustration. He moves again. Oh my god, this is unsupportable. I want to cry. Or ravish him. Yes, definitely ravish him. Is it just me or this room is boiling hot all of a sudden? He moves. Again! For heaven's sake, why can't she be still for 2 seconds? Why am I inflicting myself this penitence? I want to go back to James' room. No, actually, to be perfectly honest, I don't want to. I wonder how many times he and Ginny were having sex per month. Actually, in their case, opposite to my monthly yearly basis, perhaps it was more correct to do an estimate per week. Oh my, could it be even per day? No, probably not. They had children in the house anyway, and they both had a requiring job. Truth to be told, if I had him going around the house, I'd have chosen the daily plan, children or not, requiring job or not. Maybe I should think to something else. Like, I don't know, come on, Hermione, anything else? Think about the book you were reading about Romanian politics. What was the title? Could it be around Christmas time? Yes, I definitely think it was Christmas time the last time I had sex. Ron badgered me to death and I complied. Now that I think of it, I could have enjoyed it a bit more, all considering. Okay, this is getting ridiculous. There is a limit to what a woman can bear while sharing a bed with a super hot man, and I definitely surpassed it. I'm going to sleep on the armchair. And while I'm meditating on how to extricate myself without waking him up, I realize that he is awake too. How did you realize it? Well, his body was still very adherent to mine, and something had changed in him. I could sense it quite well. With the moment of realization, I perceive him easing himself up on one elbow. His hand is on my waist and quickly under my nightshirt. He let him move on my torso, and this is so similar to what happened in the past that I know how it's going to end. I must stop him right now. However, I'm strong enough only to utter feebly his name. He shushes me, and I close my mouth, obediently. I had no voice left to say anything else anyway. 2 seconds later, through no fault of my own I swear, I found myself eased from all my night garments, and him all over me. 2 more seconds, and he is naked too. There, I wasn't that faultless. His hands lewdly exploring my bare skin, mine tremulously daring to do the same. For the first time in my life, I thank heaven to have been born a woman, because if I was a man, the risk of everything ending before to start would have been great indeed. Moreover, I know clearly and without any possible misconception that I irremediably and utterly lost. I know that utter feebly his name was all I could do to stop him. I never had the chance to win this battle. I've been a loser from the beginning. I'm sorry, Ted. You warned me this was going to pass. I've been foolish in the extreme. I'm weak, and I don't care what is going to happen. I'm ready to pay later for my shortcoming, whatever the price will be, even a life and the afterlife in hell. I'm sure it will be worth. I'm ready to burn myself. I want to burn myself. Oh, I want it so much. I've wanted it for so long. Words cannot describe what tonight has been like. I haven't been so happy and satisfied in years, if ever. I've never experienced anything like that with Ron, and never in my wildest dream I thought it could be as it has been. Even better than when we were 17. There was the heat of discovery, the I want it all and now back then. It had been very intense and tumultuous. Those nights are impressed vividly in my mind, and I thought very often about them afterward. I'd never admitted to myself, but I think it was there I fell in love with him. I could sense it wasn't the same for him. He called me very often Ginny, and the behavior during daytime he showed anyway. So I crushed it. I ignored it. I convinced myself I was still in love with Ron, and maybe I was if it's possible to love two men together. But more I tried to bury it, more it was spurting out unexpectedly when I was less prepared. The nightmare of being considered just a friend, to play the role dutifully when inside you envy every kiss, every hug he gives to his wife. I've done my best though, and he had never realized. It's true, he has never been too observant. A different man might have discovered it. But everything was fine until that night I lost control and exposed myself so foolishly. I regretted bitterly afterward. He was much better being just a friend but close to him and allowed to hope than an avowed lover rejected and estranged. I buried courageously, and I truly tried to forget him. But I couldn't. It would be nice to have a switch to control these kind of feelings, but unfortunately, they are unmanageable. Tonight, they had reawakened in full force. The guy makes love in a rapturous way. It seems like he's not doing to satisfy himself but you. When I'm in Ron, I can feel he's just partially concerned about what I'm experiencing and what I like. He's very concentrated on his pleasure and that is his goal. But with Harry, I'd been totally different. It seemed as if he could read my mind. He explored my body as it has never been explored before. He's that gentle when he needed to be gentle and firm when he needed to be firm. How can he have this kind of sensitivity? It's beyond me. And when he was finally inside me, it was just perfection. He knew when, he knew what, he knew how. I could have died any moment and still be happy. Finally, at 38, I found out what having sex means. I've sinned, definitely. It's called adultery. But I couldn't care less. I feel selfish in my happiness. The only tinge of guilt comes thinking about Ginny. But I want to hope she would forgive my feebleness. She knew Harry. She knew me. She knew how desperately I need to feel loved, and she knew how much comfort Harry needs. She would forgive me, I know she would. And now I'm lying awake, watching him sleeping, and I almost feel like crying for joy. What is going to happen tomorrow? I don't care. What's important is the present, this moment. And right now, I'm in heaven. I wake up in the morning and I still can't believe what has passed tonight. It resembles so much one of my daydreams that I struggle to believe it real. But it is real. Miraculously, unbelievably, and joyously, it is real. A smile is on my face when I regain consciousness from my sleep. Harry's arms are wrapped tightly around me, our nakedness confirming everything without any possible misinterpretation. I open my eyes slowly, savoring the moment, and I'm already relishing in the cuddles I hope to get, the tenderness. I wonder what is going to happen now. Many daydreams pop in my mind in bright flashes. Flashes of uncommon foolishness. Because as soon as I'm awake enough, I sense that something is wrong. Or not as it should be. His arms are wrapped around me, it is true, but it is not a soft embrace. He's keeping hold of me a bit too tightly. His muscles are a bit too stiff. He is a bit too tense. And as I, more and more, regain my wits and drowsiness abandon me completely, I understand what's happening. He is far from being in the same good mood as I am. He is simply trying not to break down. That's why he's so tense. I can almost feel him quivering with the effort. I call his name softly, but he doesn't answer. I let him hold me then, hoping that it will be of any help. But after a few minutes, sensing his distress unabating, I free myself from his arms, and it's me that is embracing him. I envelop him. I let him crouch close against me, his head on my breast. I kiss it and lull him. I smooth his abundant hair. By degree, his body loosened up, his muscle relaxed under my restless caresses. The pain is undiminished, however. It's all still there. What can I do for you? How can I help you? I whisper to him. He doesn't answer at first, but then he does, and it's an answer I would have preferred not to hear. I just want it over, he says, while warm tears are gushing out of me as a cascade. I cannot find the strength to answer. This is not exactly the sentence one would like to hear after having made love with the cherished one, nor the sensation one would like to instill. Therefore I cry. I cannot do anything else. We lie there for quite a long time. I don't know how long. It's difficult to say. Judging by the feeble light outside, it's still morning. Early, but not too early. The weather is forlorn. If there is something I don't miss about England, it's the weather. Surely it doesn't help if you are in a dejected state of mind. And today is as miserable as the mood in the house. Harry is still limp in my arms. After that unhappy sentence, he had not spoken. At one point, I thought him sleeping, but he is not. He's quite awake. After a bit, without saying a word, he disentangles from me and sits up. One of his knees raised, he let his elbow rest on it, massaging his neck. While I'm about to call his name, he leaves the bed and he is out of the room. I hear the sound of the shower coming from the bathroom. Trying to chase disappointment with the conviction that I couldn't expect anything different, I dressed myself slowly. No point in staying in bed, as I don't think he'll get back from the shower all smiling and wanting to start a new life with me. I'm a fool. It is better to spend my time making myself a coffee. While I'm sipping it at the kitchen table, I peruse the daily prophet Percy sent to me. Despite already a few weeks have passed, it's still full of the accident. It's a wonder how people don't get bored to read the same things over and over again. It talks about Harry's disappearance from the community. Not that he has never been really present anyway. There are many appeals for him to join it again. Why in the name of God should you do that? To be harassed some more? To provide the magical community of fresh gossips? And then it goes on, blaming lack of funds to the Azkaban prison that made the escape possible. Shortage of staff, lack of security. The prison is overcrowded, some wish for death penalties. The same who want to keep the house elves enslaved, I'm sure. Some wish to see back the mentors. Heaven forbid people really have such a short memory. He goes on talking about A54. He tries to reconstruct his whereabouts before going to Australia, but it's difficult as most of the time he was using Polyjuice potion. In fact, the only sure notion is his sighting in Gringotts. By the way, now the pressure on Goblin to change the neutral policy is huge. I quite agree. It's scandalous that a convict can withdraw money at his pleasure and they won't even notify the minister. And nocturnally, to buy a large batch of potion. How he got hold of Harry's heir is still unclear. To the general public, I mean. I've got a shrewd idea, and I asked the minister to check it out. Anyway, he died in a mysterious way as soon as he got to Azkaban. Nobody felt the need to investigate, and the case was closed in a matter of hours with the verdict of natural death. Nobody even arched an eyebrow hearing it. The fact that he was barely in his 40s and with a perfect constitution didn't seem to constitute an impediment to a natural death. He has been killed by the guards, obviously, and, if I may say so, not altogether surprisingly. Harry was quite often there and in good terms with most of the staff. I don't agree with this procedure, but in all honesty, despite all my principles and beliefs, I felt a homicidal rush going through me when I found out that I'd been renovated. Discovering that Ginny was dead and Harry still alive, laughed. I'm still against death penalties, but I'm not going to cry over his disease. Perusing the Daily Prophet, I feel a bit excluded. When I was still working at the ministry, all what I'm reading would have been of the greatest importance to me. I'd been included in the debate, my opinion would have been looked for and considered. Now I can be only a spectator. I'm an outsider. But that doesn't mean that I'm kept in consideration for the decision got in Romanian government either. I'm an outsider there also. A foreigner. I don't belong anywhere. It has been rather tough for me to leave England. Also because Mom and Dad, who are getting older, they've only me and it's hard for them to see me so seldomly. I feel forlorn in Romania, divided from everybody. Alone. I didn't exactly manage to make any new acquaintances, and the only people we hang out with are Charlie and Clea. They are truly lovely, and I enjoy their company. But what would happen if I should divorce Ron? I couldn't move back to England as I wish. Hugo had already gone through too many changes, and he must finish school there. Moreover, I cannot take him away from Ron. It would be cruel. I should stay there, and I have the feeling that I will lose them too. I feel imprisoned in a situation that makes me unhappy, but I cannot alter. My children are my life. I cherish them with all myself, but sometimes I wish they'd never been born. It's horrible, I know. I've never told anybody and I would never. But they make everything more difficult and chain me in this relationship that clearly doesn't work. I tried to be free to pursue my career, to be able to read a book without thousands of interruptions, to be able to give up everything and move back here. But I cannot. And now that I've been with Harry, how can I look in Ron's eyes again? It all seems different today from tonight when I was delirious by happiness. Now I fully realize what I've done. It's really unfair in this regard. He might have plenty of faults, but he doesn't deserve these. Quite suddenly, to enhance my sense of guilt, I remember when I was about 20, and I got into a bit of a difficulty because of an attempt to free an abused househelp from a private house. And it had been a very foolish act considering that at that point I had already applied for a position in the law enforcement, and it could have seriously undermined my chances if a misdemeanor of that kind would have come to light. Finding out what happened, Ron took immediately all the blame and went through quite a lot of troubles before the owner of the house decided not to press charges. When, on another occasion during a very particular dinner at the minister to celebrate my rising to head of department, he overheard a guy making a denigrating joke at my being a woman. He gave him such a loud put down that procured the guy a chiding from the minister himself in front of everybody. I scolded him afterwards, saying that it was not necessary. But inside, I've been so proud of him and so grateful to have a man who would stand up for me without hesitation. No, he doesn't deserve it. He's a good man. However, that being said, I cannot even pretend that going back I wouldn't act exactly in the same way. Not if I should have another chance at it. I would back off. Right now, what is right and what feels right are clashing. Do I have to keep my life miserable only because it is right to do so? Don't I deserve to have a shot at happiness? Are there any chances of happiness in this pathetic situation? All these questions spinning in my head, I fold the newspaper and hide it in my suitcase. I don't want Harry to see it. While I'm taking my empty cup to the sink, wondering what to get for breakfast, I realize I don't hear the shower anymore. I don't know why, but the lack of any sound makes me suddenly uneasy. A moment of uneasiness, followed straight away by sheer panic. How could I possibly have been so stupid to leave him alone after the sentence uttered this morning? I was reading my newspaper here, drinking coffee nonchalantly, after he basically told me he wanted to die. I'm the biggest fool! The cup I was rinsing breaks in two in the sink as I drop it with this realization. I'm about to dash toward the bathroom, already my mind filling with images of veins cut open, blood everywhere, when I see him fully dressed and perfectly fine in the living room. Biggest fool? A total idiot, more like. I see him grasping a wallet, and that rings a bell in my head immediately. If he takes a wallet, it's because he wants to buy something in the bagel world, and considering the mood of the morning, a suspicion makes way into me. Where are you going? He doesn't answer, heading for the corridor. I spring forward and overtake him, standing in front of the door. I repeat my question, at which he tries to push me away. I stand my ground. Hermione, let me go, he says, without looking in my eyes. No, Harry, I know what you're trying to get out for, and I won't allow you to. You don't understand. You must let me go, he says steadfast. But I don't budge. He stares at me with a look of frustration. I can see he wants to thrust me away, but he doesn't dare. And there is nothing he can do to force me away. He observes me a moment, studiously, and then he does what I did not expect. He presses his body to mine, immobilizing me against the door as he starts to devour my throat avidly while his hands are grasping firmly my backside, pressing his groin against mine. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god! I definitely wasn't prepared for this, and my mind goes fuzzy straight away as the blood spins fast, hazing my understanding. He pushes hard his pelvis and I moan, already completely on fire, ready to sink powerless in his grasp. Until when? I don't know which part of my brain is still miraculously working. It reminds me why he's behaving this way. He just wants me to lower my guard and have me out of the way, and with this horror training, he studied me and played to my weakness. Him! He is my weakness, and he knows it very well. Oh, let's him bloody play with it. This is best than anything. No, Hermione, no. You are not here to improve your sexual life, despite greatly needed, but to help him and allowing him to have his way. Notwithstanding the deliciousness of the mean in which the way is obtained, you are not helping him. I have to use all my self-command and gather strength which I didn't think to possess to stop him. I start in pronouncing a very feeble no, that of course gets totally ignored, but once it's out I manage to have it followed by a louder one, and a still louder one after that, and so on, and finally I gather enough strength to grasp his hands and push them away. He stops what he is doing when I succeed in shouting a decent, loud enough negative. He lies his forehead on my shoulder, resting it there, limply, without a word, without a movement. Silence, if not my panting. Silence, while I try to master my flush. Silence, while I try to say something inarticulate. This silence, so buzzing, which prevents me to think, which prevents me to speak, is fast disrupted by a clash beside my ear that makes me jump in fright and gasp loudly. He banged with all his strength his fist on the door, few inches from my face, making the door tremble. Not just once. His fist rests there, and then he does it again, and again, and again, the following stronger than the one before. "Harry, stop! Stop!" I yell, scared, trying to hold his fist, but he shrugs me off, drawing away from me. I see him wavering, his face stricken, and then there is only a loud, cringing roar gushing from him, followed by a second one even louder. He's there, roaring with such intensity and pain that I shake. I feel all my inside contracting, singing in so violent grief. I think I sobbed nervously. I don't even know. And he is there, all in life is getting mad, taking his head in his hands, stooping, and I have no idea what to do. He gets even scarier when abruptly he began hitting his head quite hardly on the wall, more than once, and then I know at least one thing: I must stop it as soon as it might be, before a concussion. I spring forward, aware that in his fury he might strike me, but I take the risk. I must do something. I try to block him, but he's too strong for me. There is only one solution. He needs to be soothed somehow. I dash to the kitchen and take one of the vials with the sleeping potion I hid just in case, and I entreat him to drink it. As soon as he sees it, he snatches from my hand and is down in his throat a second later. He staggers, blacking out, and, just in time, I dart to prevent him from falling badly on the floor, sagging under his weight. I rest gently his body down, and with a charm, I moved on the sofa. I find myself trembling all over, and I flop beside him, my knees giving away. I need to call Ted. I want him to visit him. We must not joke with the possible concussion. I want to make sure that everything is fine. I don't find him at home. He's surely at the hospital. I look for him there, and when he gets to the fire, called by a nurse, from his face, I know he already divined something. "You owe him," he only asks. "Him. I'm coming." Not even 5 minutes later, he's in the fireplace, with his healer uniform still on. "What happened? Where is he?" he asks purposefully. I explain the situation, leading him into the living room. He gets his wand straight away and casts different spells and charm against his head. When he stops, he looks at me, and his hair, from white and blinding it was, start to fade in grey. Almost at the same time, I spot the same alteration in his eyes. From light they are, I see a shade of a darker blue from the pupils speckling the irids. And witnessing this transformation that is so usual with him, I'm not sure why, dread creep over me. But he only stays tranquil. "I don't know, Hermione. I think he's fine, but you forget I'm not a qualified healer yet. It would be better to take him to San Mango. He should stay there. He left too soon. His healer asked me to bring him back." "You know he will never agree, and we can hardly take him without his consent. He would go mad, and we cannot risk it. I don't want them to shut him in, labeled as insane." "He's not well either." "No, Ted, we are not taking him there. That's final." "And unfortunately, we cannot allow any healer inside here either because of the Fidelus, as Ted very well know." He looks at me grim, his wand dangling limply from his fingers, and I grant him through the silence that yes, he should be taken to San Mango, and yes, he is on the good path for his insanity. But that doesn't change my resolution. I know how they would treat with him, and it would only worsen his situation. I believe Ted knows too. Thereby, he doesn't insist. He passes his hand in his grey hair, getting darker by the minute, sighing and watching him sleeping, dismayed. I don't know what's best. In any case, don't give him any sleeping potion. Stun him, if you must. This exchange pains me. I cannot believe we are talking about the Harry that only at Christmas, not even a couple of months ago, was laughing and joking with George, playing with Sunrise and kissing Ginny. We are treating him like a dangerous, unpredictable wild animal. I'll make some tea, I say wearily, to ease the moment, heading to the kitchen. Do you fancy a cup? He answers in the affirmative and follows me, glancing and whirling in Harry's direction a last time, before to leave the room. Don't you have to go back to St. Mungo's? No, my shift was about to end anyway. A wretched uneasiness envelops us. I busy myself with the tea, and none of us spoke until the cups with the fuming drink are in front of us. I found myself not able to meet his gaze, so I stare fixedly at my cup. I feel his inquiring eyes on me, and damning myself in the meanwhile, I cannot help but blush. I hear a sigh coming from him. I knew it, he says. Oh, Hermione, he murmurs, shaking his head. The blush gets more intense. I blurt out in my defense, I know I'm sorry, but he is... And I tail off, unable to continue the sentence. I try again, with the same energy. And I am... But I cut this sentence too. He's what? And I'm what? I cannot find a way to complete those sentences, not even in my head. I understand, Ted says, dejected. Apparently, he, unlike me, knows. But Hermione, this is very wrong. Far from me to lecture, but you are definitely not helping him. And overall, you are putting yourself in a potentially dangerous situation. I stop a second in my shame to appreciate the fact that the whippersnapper of barely 23 is indeed lecturing me, a woman of 38. I'm sorry to be harsh with my words, but I must. You are aware that he's not in love with you, and a serious doubt he will ever be. I nod, and I feel in spite of myself my eyes moist. And do you realize that having intercourses with you is only trying either to escape from his grief, or worse still, pretending you are Ginny? This truth, so brutally slapped to my face, is indeed painful and staggering. One thing is to know it deep down, but wallowing in denial, and another is having it so utterly confirmed by a third clear-mind party. I try to speak, but my voice fails me, so I simply nod again. Do you realize then in the long run how this situation will affect you? And him? With an act of extreme boldness, I find my voice to answer more or less composedly. Ted, I assure you, I know. I very well know what I'm doing and what I'm risking, but this is my only shot for happiness. He cuts off my sentence. This is not going to happiness, Hermione. It will bring you to a secure misery. This is the closest I can get, I reply steadfast. I still didn't look at him, not even once. I'm not that bold to encounter those eyes that will make me perceive how wrong I'm behaving. The only thing in my field of vision are his long fingers on the handle of the cup that he hasn't still brought to his mouth. I know I will pay for it, but I prefer this now than nothing ever. What about him? Did you think about it? The fact that this can have on his mind? Yes and no. Yes, because I still want to believe that, despite what Ted thinks, perhaps he could learn to love me. And perhaps that would cure him. And no, because I don't want to admit what Ted is wanting me to realize. A silence follows. The cup is finally lifted, and while I is sipping it, I can almost hear his brain working under the influx of my words. I glance briskly at him. His hair, almost black now, is a bit longer, as usual when he loses himself in thoughts. He pushed them back wistfully, and I reflect on how bizarre this whole thing of swinging of colors by the mood is. It makes it impossible to live in the Muggle world. I wonder if he ever tried to check it, or if he did care. I try to remember if it was the same for Tonks, but I cannot recollect. Won't you tell anybody? Will you? I'm pronouncing this request. I feel like a 6-year-old girl who has been caught in a mischief and is begging one of his parents not to tell the other. Of course I want Hermione. Why should I? There is too much at stake. I don't even want to imagine Ron's reaction in finding out. No, me neither. He'd been capable to kill both me and Harry. Am I really so reprehensible? I'm afraid I am.